Sham Sharadava Naladida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Samsardava Naladida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Gana Praptasya Kalyana Gurunana Vasya Bande Guru Shri Charana Ravinda Praptasya Gurunana Vasya Bande Guru Shri Charana Bande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Bande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Bande Guru Charanaravinda Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Baditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Om Mancha Kampasru Taranga Baju Bande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramarjanado Shri Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatapi Bande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadam Satvana Traptan Harivakta Shangam Kridvaiva Trapti Bhajata Shadeva Bande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Shiradikama Dabayarapara Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Para Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalopasya Bande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Ne Kunjayuno Ratikali Siddhai Jayali Bhir Jokti Apekshaniya Ratikali Siddhai Jayali Bhir Tatrati Daksha Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaro Vrindam. Sachadhari Dvena Shamasta Shashri Rukastatha Bhavyataiva Sadhavi Sachadhari Kintu Prabhaja Priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaro Vrindam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Yayam Stubham Tasya Yasatri Sandyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaro Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatya Desata Rine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Anya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Bo, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Yaraya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namah Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama 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 Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jai Vishwapar Paramahansa Prabhupada Sutara Sarasishimar, His Divine Grace, Abhacharavina Bhakti Viranta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Pratishta Vividi Samstapakacharya, Paritpavan Vaishnav Shramoni Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Gurya Guru Varga Patiti Udhari Ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatra Gunata, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sadgoswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavvrindi Ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमन गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावर नय अवतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय प्रियदांग ट्रांसजेंडर बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंज समकुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय जय लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा नील माधव की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुणा श्री गौरनिताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुदेव सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा धारानी की जय Shamavita Bhakta Vinde Ki Jai Nitagura Ripramanande. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories. Shri Guru, Shri Gaurang.
Namaste Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Prahlada Ladadayine
Prahlada Ladadayine
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha
Hiranya
Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha
Jata jata jami tata risingu.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha.
Narasimhadim Sharanam Prapade.
Narasimhadim Sharanam Prapade.
Tava kara kamalavare nakam adbhuta sringa dalita hiranyakashipu tanubhringam keshavadrita narahari rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare.
Tava kara kamala bare nata adbhuta singam dalita hiranyakashipu tanabhingam keshavadrita varihentu Jagadisha Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Jagadisha
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare.
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha
Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi.
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय।
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Devai प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादिदेवी स्वतवतये नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरन हो।
जय तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूर्ण।
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करे को कतारे वृंदावन वासी।
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास।
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास।
नयने हरि वो सदा जुगल रूपरासी।
अमिनायने हरि वो सदा जुगल रूपरासी। Sakirayano gata karo
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी।
se sevayadi karadiye karane jadasi।
दीना कृष्ण दासे गोए जीना मोरा होए।
दीना कृष्ण दास को हे नामोरा।
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी।
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेम सदा ये नमासी।
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी।
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये नमासी।
यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि स पापानि ब्रह्मचारी कानि स तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि स पापानि ब्रह्मचारी कानि स तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि स पापानि ब्रह्मचारी स तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
नित्य गौरा हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल
Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo.
जय तुलसी महारानी की
Jai Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayai. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayai. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Whoever takes shelter of your wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, make him resident over in God. My desire is that those who give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shurindavan. Thus within my vision, from always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a God that can redeem Prince of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid seven Krishna praise. May I always sing about Shri Shri Radha and Govinda Swami Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chaitanya
Anandam Putivardanam Patipadam Purnatmasaram Sarvatmasnapanam Param Jayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan Nam Namakari Vaudan
Vijay Sarva Shakti
Tatra Pitaya Hitasharena Kara
Ita Vishitava Kipayam Bhavamamapi Durdaiva Visham Yadigananurama Vinarati Sunichena
Tahorapi Sayushvana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagari Sakame Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatar Bhakti Hari Ainandatanuja Kinkaram Paditama Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tavapad Pankaja Chintaya Nayanam Gadashudharaya Vadanam Gadgadadaniya Gira Ulake Nishitam Vapu Kada Tavanam Granane Bhavishyati Yugaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Vrushaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Ashrishya Bhadatam Nastuma Adarshanama Pranam Karotuva Yata Tata Vidatulam Pato Matpranadastu Vimanaparam Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Glory to Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of children, birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the primary benediction for humanity at large. God displays the rays of the benediction mill. It is a life of transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we always are anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharajananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I'm fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and will the hairs on my body stand on the end of the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I consider the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one that Krishna is my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shri Shikyastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord. that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent, name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting for Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as rule of activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting with the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It's also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our respectful obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas devoted to the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya yatam vayaritarataschat svavidya swara. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Mojantija Suraya. Tejo Varimrida Jata Vinimajo Jatra Trisargo Mrisya. Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyang Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva,
O all-pervading personality of Godhead,
O all-pervading personality of Godhead,
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth,
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth,
and the primeval cause of all causes,
and the primeval cause of all causes,
creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
of creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
And
manifestations,
he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is he only who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of
the
Brahmaji,
original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
One is bewildered by the illusory representation
as one is bewildered by the illusory
of
representations.
water seen in fire or land seen in water.
Water seen the fire, land seen the water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universes,
temporarily manifested by reaction to the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature,
appear factual, although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the
I
material world.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute
Dharma
truth.
projita kaitravudra,
Dharma Prujita Kaitaputra,
paramo nirmatsaranam satam,
Paramo Nirmasaranam Satam,
vedyam vastavam atra vastu,
Vedyam Vastavam Astra Vastu,
sibradam tapo Trayanmulanam.
Shivadam Taputrayamranam
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikriti
Kim Vaparer Ishwaraha.
Kimva Paririshvara
Sadyo Hridi Avrudyate Tra.
Sadyurudya Varidya Titra
Kriti Bihi Sasusabhistakshana.
Kritibhi Shishushu Vistakyanat
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially
This
motivated.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Puran propounds a high truth
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in their
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of
Such
all.
truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity,
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
Which is the need of the other scripture.
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively, submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of
by
knowledge,
this culture of knowledge,
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kapaturur galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpatoror da galitam phalam,
sukamukad amrita dravya samyatam,
sukamukhat amritatrava sangitam,
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam,
muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha.
muhura horasika bhuvi bhavuka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad
The
Bhagavatam,
mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic glory.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadev Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarine juice was relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shrivantam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hridyantaksto hi Badrani,
Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani,
Vidunati Suhitsatam.
Vidhu Noti Surit Satam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic literature,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad
it's
Gita,
itself righteous activity.
it is a righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about
Lord
Krishna,
Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purify the devotees constantly engaged in hearing of him.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Praishra Bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
bhagavati uttama sloke
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
bhaktir bhavati naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavatir Nastiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, devotee naturally develop his dormant transcendental
As
knowledge.
he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the
he
devotees,
becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Kamalobhadayascha
cheta etar anavidam
Cheta Itaranavida
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Stitam Sarvi Prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional
one
service,
becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasanna manaso
Evam prasanna manasu
bhagavat bhakti yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
mukta sangasya jayate.
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped away,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in position of pure
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional
and
service,
understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate hridaya grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Granthis
chidyante sarvasamsaya
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
shiyante chasya karmani
Chiyante Chasya Karmani
drishta evatmanishvare.
Drusta Evatmanishwari.
Thus, bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga serves the heart of the material affection
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram.
and enables us to come at once to the stage of assumption.
Understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
Understanding the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee,
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees
in Krishna consciousness, can one understand the science of Krishna.
Can one understand the science of Krishna?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse number 28. Alabdatrina Bhumyadir
Alabdatrina Bhumyadi
Asampraptargya Surita Sunrita Sunrita
Asampraptagya Surita
Sunrita
Sunritaya
Avagyatam Ivatmanam
Avagyatam Ivatmanam
Manyamanas Chukopaha.
Manyamana Chakopaha.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The king, not received by any formal welcome, by means of being offered a seat, place, water, and sweet addresses, considered himself neglected, and so thinking, he became angry. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The law of reception in the codes of the Vedic principles states that even if an enemy is received at home, he must be received with all respects. He should not be given a chance to understand that he has come into the house of an enemy. When Lord Krishna, accompanied by Arjuna and Bhima, approached Jarasandha in Magadha, the respectable enemies were given a royal reception by King Jarasandha. The guest enemy, namely Bhima, was to fight with Jarasandha, and yet they were given a grand reception. At night they used to sit down together as friends and guests, and in the day they used to fight, risking life and death. That was the law of reception. The reception law enjoins that a poor man who has nothing to offer his guests should be good enough to offer a straw mat for sitting, a glass of water for drinking, and some sweet words. Therefore, to receive a guest, either friend or foe, there is no expense. It is only a question of good manners. When Maharaj Pariksit entered the door of Samika Rishi, he did not expect a royal reception by the Rishi because he knew that saints and Rishis are not materially rich men. But he never expected that a seat of straw, a glass of water, and some sweet words would be denied to him. He was not an ordinary guest, nor was he an enemy of the Rishi. And therefore, the cold reception by the Rishi astonished the king greatly. As a matter of fact, the king was right to get angry with the Rishi when he needed a glass of water very badly. To become angry in such a grave situation was not unnatural for the king. But because the king himself was not less than a great saint, his becoming angry and taking action were astonishing. So it must be accepted that it was so ordained by the supreme will of the Lord. The king was a great devotee of the Lord, and the saint was also as good as the king. But by the will of the Lord, the circumstances were so created that they became ways to the king's becoming unattached to family connection and governmental activities, and thus becoming a completely surrendered soul unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them towards himself from the mire of material existence. But outwardly, The situations appear to be frustrating to the devotees. The devotees of the Lord are always under the protection of the Lord, and in any condition, frustration or success, the Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees, therefore, accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the law of reception is very interesting. The Muslims have a similar type of code. And oftentimes they practice it. Like if some enemy comes, they welcome them with great respect and offer them a place to sit. They exchange kind words. They offer them a feast and like that. And then when the person leaves, they go after him and kill him. It's happened a lot. So, of course, that's really hard to understand for most people. But here we see that there is, in the Vedic times, there was law of reception, and enemies at night would stop fighting as soon as the sun went down, and then they would join together for feasting and being merry and speaking in friendly terms together. And then the next morning they would continue to try and kill each other. The only difference is, trying to kill each other, it was done with codes of war. They didn't break the codes of war. You know, if someone surrenders, you don't kill them. If someone's off their chariot, you don't kill them. You know, there are different principles like that. There were very strict codes of law of war. But the Muslims, of course, didn't do that. I mean, they had the law of reception, but after the next morning, someone leaves, and then they ambush them and kill them. So that's a different culture. But there was remnants of the original Vedic culture, because everything is coming originally from the Vedic culture, whether it's Judaism or Islam or Christianity or Sikhism or Jainism or Buddhism. All those different religions have some relationship originally with the Vedic knowledge. So then it says, even a poor man who's not expected to give an opulent reception, still the bare minimum is a straw mat to sit on, a glass of water, and kind words. So when the Pandavas went to see Bhisma, who was on a bed of arrows and leaving his body, he couldn't offer them anything, right? But he did offer them very kind words and wisdom. So he also received them properly, according to his position at that time. So now the next part of this purport is extremely profound, because it shows what a real devotee, how a real devotee reacts to success or failure. And everyone, in a sense, is going to fail in life, because we're going to get old, we're going to get sick, and we're going to die. So that is failure. But the devotee goes through those stages differently than the non-devotee. The non-devotee is regretful, the non-devotee is very frustrated, the non-devotee is resentful. You know, they have all these negative emotions when things fail, and ultimately when they're sick and dying. But here we see that, but by the will of the Lord, the circumstances were so created that they became ways to the king's becoming unattached to family connection and governmental activities, and thus becoming a completely surrendered soul unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, we should expect that this can happen to us. Why? Because it happens to everybody. The circumstances might be different, but everyone is going to experience this type of, let's say, disaster in their life. Either it's sickness, either it's family arguments. There's many different ways that it happens, but it's going to happen. And someone would say, well, why should such a thing happen? Well, it's because it's to teach us that our only salvation is complete dependence on the mercy of the Lord. And Prabhupada talks about this. He said that when he was a grihasta, when he would hear a particular verse, I'm going to read it now, he would shudder and hope, well, let's say in a sense, hope that it would never happen to him. So what is that verse? It is 289. 289. Yeah. So that verse is Yasyaham anagrinanti harishita danam sanai. My first mercy, Krishna says, shown to my devotee, is to take away all his material opulence. Oh my God. So when Prabhupada would hear that or think about it, he would shudder, thinking that that could happen to him. And guess what? It happened to him. He went bankrupt, and his family sort of was very disappointed with him, and the situation looked horrible, right? But yet, the same thing is happening here to Maharaj Parikshit. But how does a devotee react in such a situation? That is the main point. But by the will of the Lord, the circumstances were so created that they became ways to the king's becoming unattached to family connection and governmental activities, and thus becoming a completely surrendered soul unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them towards himself from the mire of material existence. But outwardly, the situations appear to be frustrating to the devotees. The devotees of the Lord are always under the protection of the Lord, and in any condition, frustration or success, the Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees therefore accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. There it is. The pure devotees therefore accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. Now, this is almost impossible for a normal person to understand. But Krishna speaks about this. You can see it right here. He's speaking about it. And it's not just once. It's in many different situations in the scriptures that he talks about this. And then great devotees also talk about this. So this verse, Yasyaham anagrinanti harisheta danam sanai, 10th canto, 88th chapter, 8th verse. And it's very significant. It says, my first mercy shown to my devotee is to take away all his material opulence. Now, people who hear this in India, this is why they don't want to worship Krishna. They want to worship Ganapati, or they want to worship Lakshmi Devi, or they want to worship Durga Mata. Because they think, oh my God, if I worship Krishna, he'll take everything away from me. And obviously, their whole purpose is to accumulate things, not to lose things that they're attached to. But however, let's look at the case of Prabhupada. He goes bankrupt, and then eventually he leaves his family and goes to Vrindavan, and he gets bored by a bull, and he's in the hospital. He's seriously injured, and he's thinking, maybe I made a mistake leaving my family, because there's no one there to help him. Of course, he's in a hospital, but there's no one there to help him, and this terrible accident happens, or maybe it wasn't an accident. But he decides in his mind, he firms up, he decides that no, he will not go back to his family, and it will just depend on the mercy of Krishna. So he gets better, but it's a struggle for him. It's all struggle, and every effort he made to spread Krishna consciousness more or less failed in that period. Even after he took sannyas, most of his efforts failed, and he could hardly make more than one disciple. And he was a grihastha who was a Sanskrit expert, but he was, attached to his family. So then Prabhupada decides he's going to go to America, and somehow or other he begs Srimati Mukherjee to give him a free ticket because he didn't have any money. Right? And he gets the ticket, and he decides to. And then she tries to convince him not to go. She said, look, you're an old man. It's cold there in America, and you don't understand American culture, and, it's not easy. But anyway, Prabhupada is determined to serve his guru. And he finally boards the Jaladuta in Calcutta, and on the way to America, he has 2 severe heart attacks with no medical help. Somehow or other, he survives. And before that, he gets seasick because the boat is going up and down. It's very much uncomfortable for him, and he has to cook for himself. And he's alone. He doesn't have much and doesn't have anybody to help him. But Krishna helped him. And when he arrives in America, he doesn't know anybody. He just has that one contact, and he has to go from somehow or other from. I guess it was Boston to Butler, Pennsylvania. And then he stays there 1 month, and he realizes he's not going to get anywhere like that. So he goes, without having any idea what's going to happen, to New York. And he has to get there by bus. Right? And somehow or other things work out. But when he finally has a small apartment in a very small temple, someone steals his typewriter and his translation of Bhagavad Gita, and the police don't know what to do. They can't find it. So I mean, he had so many upsets, and it looked very, very, let's say, dire and not very promising. But yet he didn't give up, and eventually everything turned around, because of his absolute dependence on the mercy of Krishna. He was even going to buy a ticket and go back to India. And he looked into it, but then he decided not to do it. So you see, if we study Prabhupada's life, especially how he tried to start the movement in the United States, and he went through so much difficulty. I mean, it's unimaginable, the difficulties he went through. Oh, someone tried to kill him also, and tried to stab him to death. So here we see Prabhupada is writing, the merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them toward himself from the mire. Mire means like the entanglement or the unhealthy situation of material existence. But outwardly, the situations appear to be frustrating to the devotees. The devotees of the Lord are always under the protection of the Lord, and in any condition, frustration or success, the Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees, therefore, accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. Well, we should take this very seriously and consider this a great day today that we can hear this and hear the explanation of Prabhupada and not be afraid. We should never be afraid of failure, because there's a saying in English, failure is the pillar of success. So you have to know how to fail. Not that you try to fail, but sometimes circumstances are such that we will fail to achieve something that we're really hoping to achieve. But we can learn from every situation that we should depend completely on the mercy of Krishna, that nothing can happen, not a blade of grass can move without the will of the Lord. So, therefore, we should always try our best to serve the Lord. Now, I'm going to read very interesting letters of Srila Prabhupada. And he writes in August 17, 1969, to a devotee named Mahapurusha, who used to be in the first temple in Seattle. I know him, actually. He keeps appearing and disappearing. He's a nice, very nice person, but, anyway. So Prabhupada writes to him, he says, I am pleased to learn that you are now chanting 16 rounds daily. He's initiated devotee, right? But anyway, eating Bhagavad Prasada, reading Bhagavad Gita, and going on Sankirtan party. All these things will save you, and they will save anyone who persists in Krishna consciousness faithfully and sincerely. Okay, so what does he talk about? Eating Bhagavad Prasada, reading Bhagavad Gita, and going on Sankirtan. Right? He says these things will save you, and they'll save anyone who persists in Krishna consciousness faithfully and sincerely. Actually, the presence of Maya should not surprise us, because this is the kingdom of Maya. All of the uncountable living entities in the uncountable universes are generally to be found under the stringent grip of Maya's power. So the presence of Maya is not a very wonderful thing. But what is wonderful is when a sincere soul decides to turn away from the attraction of Maya and decides to serve Krishna in pure, unalloyed devotional service. So this is what we should fix our attention to, serving Krishna sincerely. Then automatically the influence of Maya will become nil, and we can remember our eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. But as long as we are attracted by the nonsense relationship, by the nonsense glittering of Maya's call, this pure state of consciousness cannot be realized within the heart. In other words, as long as we're attracted to things that are offered by Maya, which is what? Meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, things like that. Prestige, power, money, fame, all these things that Maya can offer. It says, this pure state of consciousness cannot be realized within the heart. So continue assisting your husband, continue assisting Upendra as you are doing it now, and I am sure Krishna will help you in all respects. So this is addressed to Mahapurusha and Upendra, who at that time was the president of the temple in Seattle. So, and then again Prabhupada says, I'm very glad to learn from Upendra's letter that you have lectured nicely and improved this preaching habit. Kirtana means whatever we hear from the spiritual master, we repeat it again nicely. One who can reproduce the sound vibration heard from the spiritual master, he will be a good preacher. Haribol, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So that's an interesting letter. Then in another letter, again on August 16, 1969, he writes to another devotee named Damodara, who at that time was the president of the first temple in Washington, D.C. And he says, the Sankirtan movement is the panacea. Panacea means the the cure or the healing herb for all problems of the world. The people are suffering on account of illusory happiness of this material world, and we have got great responsibility to enlighten them with Krishna consciousness. So here is Prabhupada saying that Sankirtan will solve all the problems of the world. That's how much importance he gives to it. And then in another letter, he writes to Govinda Dasi, who was serving also, Upendra's her husband, so I guess they were in Hawaii later on, but at first they were in Seattle. So anyway, he says, we pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, your incarnation is to claim the most fallen souls. So in this age of Kali, almost everyone is dangerously fallen, and the hippies appear to be still more greater fallen. Besides that, from their behavior it appears that they like this movement. This is a very good sign. You wrote that you have desired to avail of my association again, but why do you forget that you are always in association with me? When you are helping my missionary activities, I am always thinking of you, and you are always thinking of me. That is real association. Just like I always think of my Guru Maharaja every moment, although he is not physically present. And because I am trying to serve him to my best capacity, I am sure he is helping me by his spiritual blessings. So there are two kinds of association with Guru. Vapu, or physical, and or Vani, or perceptorial. That means, Vani means by remembering the words and instructions of the Guru and executing them. And Vapu means physical association. Prabhupada says, physical association is not so important as perceptorial association. So try to preach this Krishna consciousness movement amongst the hippies there, and simply induce them to chant Hare Krishna. If they kindly join in chanting Hare Krishna, that will make our movement successful. Then gradually make them more and more advanced by participating in love feasts and ceremonies like Janmashtami and Ratha Yatra. Then everything will go smoothly. The only thing wanted is that we should work very sincerely with full faith in Krishna and the spiritual master. Then all help will come automatically. Okay, so these are important letters by Srila Prabhupada. And like I said, in the new year, we should hear this type of wisdom coming from the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is what inspired devotees 50 years ago. And this is what will continue to inspire us today. So Prabhupada also writes, he says, real yoga is Buddhi yoga, the yoga of devotional service, which brings about direct perception of the Supreme Lord. When the devotee meets the Lord face to face, liberation takes the form of a woman and is at his beck and call. This is an amazing statement by Prabhupada. Let me read that again. He says, liberation, when the devotee, when the devotee meets the Lord face to face, liberation takes the form of a woman and is at his beck and call. Beck means whatever desire he has, and call means she'll immediately come and satisfy it. Right? Eager to serve him, and she is accompanied by personified material opulence, sense pleasure, and religiosity, all of whom wait upon the devotee like servants. The pure devotees of the Lord are all embodiments of perfection in yoga. Thus, the four Vedic goals are truly at their beck and call. In other words, liberation, opulence, material opulence, sense pleasure, and religiosity, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And beyond these four goals is the supreme destination, super consciousness or God consciousness. This is the fifth and paramount Vedic goal. One who has reached the state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness is an extremely rare personality. 1 in a million devotees, according to Lord Chaitanya. So it's this very rare thing. Such an elevated state of consciousness is the last word in yoga. None of the other yoga processes, such as Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga, can bring one to this platform. Buddhi Yoga lies far above these yoga practices, which are, Buddhi Yoga means pure devotional service, which are mostly physical disciplines. Buddhi Yoga, however, is a spiritual discipline for self-realization. This realization is a full perception of the non-dual absolute truth, whereby one sees everything resting in the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord in everything. Well, this is an amazing statement, and he makes it several times. In another place, he says, thus, in one sense, the Vaishnavas are pure monists. So he's saying the Mayavadis are dualists, but the Vaishnavas are pure monists. The Mayavadis claim to be monists, but they divide the material nature from Krishna. And they divide the Brahma Jyoti from Krishna. So they're dividing all the time into two. But when you have real knowledge of who Krishna is, and what does that mean? He is the source of everything. Then there's nothing divided. Everything is connected to Krishna. That's monism. Real monism. And the Mayavadis, all they do is keep dividing Krishna from everything else, and that's dualism. So the devotees are pure monists. And then here it says, this realization is full perception of the non-dual absolute truth, whereby one sees everything resting in the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord in everything. Okay, so this is what is meant. This is what Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita. In the 7th chapter, he explains how to see him in the material world. Rasoham apsakonteya pravasmi sasisruraya pranavas sarvavedesu sabdeke purasham rishu. So he's beginning there and the following verses explaining how we can see him in the material world. He says, I am the taste of water, and I am the light of the sun and the moon. And also, Vedesu Sarvabhutam, and I am the Om in every Vedic mantra, and Om Pranava. And I am ability in man, and I am the Pranava Sarvaveda, so Sabde Ke Purusham Risu. I am sound in ether and ability in man. So he's teaching us how to see him in the material world in the 7th chapter, in the 10th chapter, and the 11th chapter. And then when you get to the 13th chapter, he explains what is the real process of knowledge. And next, he explains how to surrender to him. So he explains what is real knowledge, jnana, and then how to surrender to him, or in other words, being introduced to him, that's called sambandha, and then functioning in his service, that's abhideya, and then eventually attaining pure love of God. So these are the things that are explained in the 13th and 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So in this way, we learn to see him in everything, and we see everything connected to Krishna. That is real monism. That is real oneness. And then when we agree to please the Lord in every way, then we become liberated. Or as it says, Yomam evam asamuto janati purushottama sasarvavid bhajante mam sarvabhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me. Itiguyatamam shastram idam uktam mayanaga etad buddhva buddhimam syat kritakrityascha bharata. O son of Bharata, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So, then Prabhupada says, once a person surrenders fully to the Lord's lotus feet, he sees the Lord's form everywhere. Not this world of moving and non-moving matter. So, he says, he sees the Lord's form everywhere. He doesn't exactly see this world of moving and non-moving matter. He sees Krishna everywhere. Within the matter, he sees, and within the heart of every living entity. And he doesn't see anything separate from Krishna. So, these are some points I wanted to discuss. And therefore, a devotee is not afraid of failure, because he knows that not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord, that the Lord has some plan. So the devotee remains steady in his devotional service. He, in fact, doubles down when there's failure and does not doubt his dependence on the Lord or the goodwill of the Lord. Therefore, the devotee sees failure as a blessing, because he takes complete shelter of the Lord and depends on him. Okay, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Don't try to fail purposely, of course. That would be a big mistake. Are there any questions or comments?